Today's the day we cut the top off this Browning Citori shotgun. This is going to be exciting. Don't go away. So it turned out that the table of the bandsaw was a little too small to support the entire stocks. Before I cut this, I did a position test, and what the problem was is the Citori stock is just a little bit longer than the tabletop, so I wasn't able to keep the stock entirely positioned on that tabletop while I was going through the entire length of the cut. So what I did was I mounted it to a piece of 1/4-inch plywood. So essentially I made a sled. Then there was no way I could clamp it comfortably, so I just duct taped it to the top of the plywood so that it's going to hold it stable while we go through the entire length of that cut and all those curves. All right, you'll see what I mean here as soon as we get to cutting. So let's get started. We now have a topless Citori shotgun. Well, Chris, it's all done now. Only one choice, and that's to make this thing work. Now the hard part, making it all fit. So as expected, the bandsaw left cut marks, and I need to get rid of those cut marks so that we get a nice smooth finish, and you can sort of see those cut marks right here. So we need to do that. We're going to use a combination of rasp files and sandpaper. Now what I want to be careful of is that we don't want to chip the finish on the outside of the stock. Okay, I've got it all taped off. That helped prevent a lot of chipping when we were cutting. But I have to be careful that I don't chip as I'm rasping this. In order to do that, I'm going to rasp into the center from the outside, and I don't want to rasp going out the back side because that's where I'm going to end up pulling chips and then pulling finish. So we always want to rasp into the stock from outside to center. So I'm going to avoid going too much past center while I'm doing this. Then I'll flip the stock around and come in from the other side. Hey, furnace is running. Sorry, it's cold down here. So we've got that one side done. We flipped it over and we're going to start sanding or filing from the other side, so again, so that we don't chip it out. So we're always pulling in to center from the outside. That bandsaw does a really good job. It tracks really well, so I don't get a lot of cut marks or teeth marks from the bandsaw. So this isn't as hard a job as it could have been. All right, so all the teeth marks are gone, so we're going to go to this finer rasp or finer file. All right, so we're going to start working on the comb, or that piece that we cut out. That's an outside curve, and those outside curves are always easier to rasp or file than the inside curves are. So just doing the same thing. First we're going to use the fine rasp, and pull that right over the curve so that we're pulling out those cut marks or those teeth marks from the bandsaw. Once again, always pulling from the outside in. Always trying to avoid pulling that finish or chipping that outside edge. What I'm doing is I'm just using my thumb, using feel to make sure that we've pulled away as much of those high spots as we can. That actually looks really good. So, all right, let's check our fit. So one of the fit looks really. Let's see if we can get that to focus. So the fit looks really good on this. One of the issues I've got, which is one we talked about early on, is that the kerf size, leaves a good 45 thousandths kerf, which is. It's unfortunate, but we want to remember that this is going to look like this when the owner lifts this up to get the cheek rise or the height of the comb the way he would like it. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. All right, next thing we want to do is we want to use the sandpaper and get this as smoothed out as we can. So let's go ahead and do that next. So I've got this large flattened maple block that I made, and again, from a previous video I told you that I actually put this on the mill and milled this off so it's nice and flat. And what I want to do to start with is just come over the flat spot so that I'm removing as much of any of those humps that might be left, humps or cut marks. Unfortunately, the rasp and the file take enough of that out that all I'm trying to do is just blend it off, blend any of the cut marks away from the file using my fingers, just feeling for high spots that I might have missed. Your fingers are actually really good tools for finding blemishes in the wood. I have this this 1 inch or 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch dowel that happens to match this really pretty well. So we're going to use that. But again, because we don't want to go up into the finish or up into the edge of the wood, we're always going to start at the top or start at the edge and roll it in. Using 100 grit paper, cloth back paper. The cloth back paper is really good for this kind of stuff because it's rugged and tends not to tear when you're doing this kind of work. The paperback sanding paper is really good for finishing. Alright, so as soon as I get this done, I'll bring it back when we start sanding the comb piece itself. Now back to that earlier discussion that I had in a previous video about the kerf width and using the bandsaw versus the scroll saw. One of the problems is, and I mentioned that earlier on, is that we're not just worried about the kerf width, but we also have to sand away or file away all those cut marks, which adds that much more material removed, which again increases the size of that gap between the parent stock and the comb. Now the saving thing on this is that the comb will never be down flush fit against the stock. It's always going to be elevated because that's why Chris wanted this done, so he could get the comb height up a little bit. This is one really hard piece of walnut. It's a nice piece of burl, so it does not want to sand easily. Alright, so that looks really good. I think we're done. So let's see what we ended up with here. So the fit looks pretty good. So the cutaway, or the kerf cutaway, or the gap between them is now pretty even all the way around, or all the way through the entire cut. And we've got all the sand marks off, so I think we're ready to go. Looks good. So that's going to end today's video. When we come back for the next part of the video, we're going to mount this in the mill and we're going to cut away the slots so that we can get this these lift mechanisms installed. That's going to be a little bit of a trick, a little bit fun, because I have to get it not only centered in the stock, but I also have to get it centered so that when the two of them go together, that they actually go up and down, and they're even in the on the sides of the stock. These things have some neat little adjusters in them. I don't know if you can see it, but we have the ability to move these left and right so that we can align it. But so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut away this slot here. And the last thing, we need to cut away the slot in the comb piece that we cut away and get that to fit. So that ought to be fun, that ought to be tricky. And again, we'll do that over on the mill next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's let the YouTube algorithms know that this is a channel worth watching. Ring that bell so you get notified the next time I post a video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.